are.
And here we are, back again.
Welcome back.
Shady's back.
To the Original Liberals podcast.
Cheers, I'm Ben.
I'm Matt. We are reclaiming the name Liberal one episode at a time from the neo-left.
That's right. They stole our name a long, long time ago.
We're taking it
because
back.
The root of the word liberal is liberty.
It is.
And we
or the original
are the original liberty, freedom-seeking people.
Yep.
All right, my friend. Well, I'll say the same thing I always say. What are we talking about tonight, my buddy?
Well, we recently did a podcast where we ripped the Democrat Party, and we kind of talked a lot about the philosophy of the Democrat Party. We talked about liberalism. We talked about communism, socialism. Today, we're going to rip the hell out of the Republicans.
Yes.
Conservatives, however that progresses, and this is going to be fun because, at least for me, I said it in the last episode, I vote Republican. Mm-hmm. The lesser of two evils, really. Mm-hmm. So we're going to take this opportunity to tell you why they're not so great either.
I believe that whether it be the left wing of the establishment or the right wing of the establishment, they're both wings of the same bird.
They are.
And I will equally try to convey the why as to their issues that they have, that I see from my perspective, and I think you're probably going to do the same.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best.
All right. Might be a little less natural. It's easy to hate commies.
Yeah.
I'm ready to throw them out of helicopters at a moment's notice.
The Democrats are the easiest target ever. They suck.
They are easy target. That's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it really is.
Now, the conservatives are pretty low-hanging fruit themselves, but maybe not quite as low-hanging.
Yeah, they're not as low-hanging because, at least from my perspective, economically, which is the most important, they're less likely to destroy our entire country.
Less likely. Doesn't mean they aren't likely.
Yeah.
But less likely.
Yeah.
All right. So where do you want to start? I'm going to let you open the floor.
I'm going to start with the fact that Republicans and conservatives are so quick to invoke I say the fact that what I mean is the idea that the founding fathers are on their side, which I think is incorrect. Mm-hmm. I hear it all the time from...
this is a great point. This is a great point, by the way.
If you put Sean Hannity on, you're going to hear him talk about the United States was founded on Judeo-Christian... That's my best Sean Hannity voice. Judeo-Christian principles. Judeo-Christian principles. Mm-hmm. I believe it was not.
Well, I believe there was specifically something about the separation of church and state, but
yeah, there was something about that.
It seems to get left out of that conversation, first of all.
There was something about that also, and this is not just about the religious right, this is about the Republican Party in general, but it's crazy to me how the right claims the founding fathers as their own, paints the picture that the left hates them, which the left does hate them, and that's awful in and of its own, but the founding fathers were libertarians.
100%.
Yeah,
they were the original liberals.
Yeah, for sure.
And maybe the people before them were the men and women of the salons in France, where they would sit around and having drinks like us. Mm-hmm. And talk about the Enlightenment era ideas there that sprung the ideas that became that inspired the founding fathers.
Sure, and the founding fathers fought for them and instituted them.
But if anything,
in their own country.
Libertarianism.
Yeah, 100% libertarianism.
Yep.
Their goal was as little government as possible. Mm-hmm. The complete separation of religion and government. Mm-hmm. And conservatives and Republicans, and when I say Republicans, I mean the Republican establishment, mm-hmm. is got a vested interest in, not in libertarianism, but in conservatism.
Definitely not in libertarianism at all.
They're not. Their goal is not the separation of church and state. Their goal is not the It's not small government. It's their government. They want their government. They want to spend money their way.
If communism is the ultimate goal of the left, then really it would be equally so that the combination of church and state would be the equal and opposite, like on the dyad of the Force in some type of Star Wars light and dark thing. They would combine the church and state on if they were advanced enough in their own progressive agendas.
Especially because the Republican Party can't win national elections without the evangelical vote. And I'm happy that the evangelicals vote Republican because I think that it's important that Republicans win national elections.
Sure. But mostly for economic theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, it really is. It really is, but it bothers me to think that any religion at all, any faith-based religion, has a pull on government policy. And I think that the conservatives want that to be so because they want to preserve a culture. And I'm not against preserving that culture that they want to preserve, but I think that religion is a big factor.
They want to do it at the expense of your liberty.
Exactly. Yep. They want to do it at the expense of your liberty. They do. They want to take rights away from certain people, individual personal rights, for their own gain to win national elections.
Yes.
And that's not good.
No, not good in the least.
Yep.
To me, both sides are actually the same thing, and I'll tell you why. I believe it's the same psychology, just leading to different conclusions. And what I mean is that one side might believe in a large, all-knowing government, all-powerful government that determines the rules that you have to live by.
That'd be the left.
Right. And it loves you, but it needs lots of money, like George Carlin said. It needs lots of money. And if you don't listen to it, you deserve to be thrown in prison, where you'll stay forever.
Or at least ostracized.
Or the gulags, or ostracized, or in a really advanced communist state, millions of people were murdered. Right? However, and the reason I say it's the same is on the other side, they believe in an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-loving God who you must obey. And it loves you, but it needs lots of money.
Just like George Carlin
And if you don't listen to it, you will burn in hell with fire and stone.
Yep.
So your punishment is the same. The mode of operation, the modus operandi is the same. It's the exact same psychology.
And my problem with it isn't the belief in the deity. It's the belief in imposing that belief on other people.
Absolutely.
There's different levels of
Thought policing.
There's different levels of danger when it comes to religion and politics. The evangelical brand, I believe, is dangerous to American society. But if you want to get more extreme, you can look at the Muslim world. In Iran, they hang people from cranes in public squares for homosexuality, for example.
Right.
That's an extreme. I'm not certainly not accusing Republicans in America of that. Just so you know, I'm drawing a comparison of what happens, what can potentially happen when you allow religious belief to affect policy.
Absolutely.
And
we have 2,000 years of history.
We do.
Where the kings and popes were the policy. Okay?
Yeah.
And how did most of those years look?
Not great.
Not
From
great.
a libertarian perspective, not
Witches
great.
being burned at the stake.
Yep.
And women being held back and made into a second-class citizen, deemed only fit for certain things.
And that's Afghanistan today.
Afghanistan today, it's the history of, I'm sorry to say this, but it's the history of Christianity as well.
Yeah, it is.
Okay? In all reality.
It is.
And those things are completely ignored by the policymakers who ascribe to those same principles and philosophies in their daily decisions on how they want to govern your life.
Yep.
They may not be as ever clear and present of a danger as the other side may be, because the other side's winning.
Yeah.
Okay, but who's not to say that it's not going to turn around someday? And that is something definitely to keep in mind. Is that the emperor's the same, he just changes his robe sometimes.
In the last episode, we accused Democrats of maybe brainwashing is the right word, the masses to get behind their social philosophies so that they could gain power. The Republicans do something similar by courting evangelicals so that they can gain power, because like I said, they cannot win elections without the evangelical vote.
Absolutely.
So they're going to institute religious policies into their platform, and religious policies have absolutely no place in politics.
We talk about the national debt being a tax and spend problem, right?
Yeah.
Inflation of the currency. But you forget easily that just 20 years ago, when the Republicans were in power, what were they doing?
They're spending money.
They were spending money.
Yeah, the Republicans love to spend money. And this has got nothing to do with religion either. This is just like you're in power.
This is called not neoliberalism, but neoconservatism, right? Neocons, the Dick Cheneys, the George Bush Juniors, right? They were interfering. They were sending armies overseas for multiple reasons, I'm sure, creating blowback situations that we are still dealing with to this day. We are still dealing with fallout from people in the Middle East who only know know Americans as imperialists who came in on their holy lands and trounced all over them and murdered maybe their brother or their sister or their cousin or their mom and dad with a bomb, unintentionally. But we did it.
Yeah, we did.
How would you feel if they did that to our families?
I'd be pissed.
Exactly.
I would be pissed.
So, the conservatives will always be ready to fight when maybe we shouldn't be fighting.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to take more of a pre-World War II approach of non-interventionism.
Both sides are ready to fight.
I know they are.
Yeah, they are. I mean,
they're both playing for the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower
warned
warned about years ago.
The point is the conservatives are not exempt from that. Like, not at all. Like, not even.
No, I think they're actually more ready to fight.
Yeah, and
I think they are more of a warrior class,
and they're just as ready to spend money. Like, we just saw Speaker of the House Mike Johnson take up Obama's entire, I don't know what the price tag on that bill was that funded Ukraine.
Oh my God, $90 billion?
Insanity.
Right.
Like, Mike Johnson passed Joe Biden's package for him.
Yeah.
And that's what Republicans in power do. Republicans are the worst. They are terrible at wielding power. Like, they're decent at running elections, but they are terrible at wielding power. And
okay, what do you mean?
What I mean is, they run on these ideals of, economic liberty, and we'll take the social stuff out of it for this part of the conversation, but they run on these ideals of economic liberty and low taxes and America first, and then as soon as they've got the reins, it's like, okay, here's billions of dollars for...
Absolutely.
Not just Ukraine, but my favorite thing, infrastructure. They're always ready. Everybody's always ready to pass a fucking infrastructure bill.
That's 100% right. Well, you know why infrastructure bill?
Pet projects, man.
It's called crony capitalism.
Yeah, it's terrible, dude. It's terrible,
exactly.
and it's not a Democrat problem.
It's not a Democrat problem. They both have expressions on each side that are mirror images of one another. They're just titled and looked at differently.
Yeah.
You may have state capitalism of socialism and communism on one side, but you have state capitalism of crony capitalism on the other side.
Yeah.
And they're the same thing, because communism is just a ruling class running over the whole thing. Crony capitalism over the proletariat, right? Same thing on the other side. Crony capitalism through the means of corporatism, right? Corporatocracy grows in the place of communism on the right side.
Yeah.
Corporatocracy. And then, the left has valid complaints worrying about nationalism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love America.
Me too.
But I love her, not my government. Okay?
Yep.
They love the government side.
As long as they're controlling
As
it.
long as they're controlling it.
Yep. As long as they're controlling it and they can suppress the other side.
Absolutely.
Which is always bad. Suppression of thought is always bad.
For sure. I mean, think about the social conservatism. What does social conservatism do to a population?
It silences it. It imposes its beliefs upon it. And
which is what we're seeing from the left right now.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what it does on the right-hand side,
It does.
too.
And the main reason I believe the left is more dangerous is because they're winning.
That's exactly it.
If we
They just happen to be the ones in power.
Yeah, if the ultra-right conservatives were winning right now, I'd be taking a different tone. I would be probably more opposed to that because in theory it's all bad. But yeah, I mean it's really one and the same. It's all part of the same monster. So,
when the towers were struck on September 11th, it was amazing what happened to the country. We actually started seeing ourselves as Americans for a little while.
a brief period of time.
For a brief period of time. Our amygdala got tapped a little
That
bit.
old amygdala again.
Our collective amygdala got tapped, and we realized what the threat was, right? And in conservative neocon theory, it is believed that for the population to be healthy, it must have an enemy to identify at all times to solidify itself against.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that before?
Yep.
That is a old CIA,
Very true.
George Bush era way of thinking, which may vary. I'm not saying it's wrong.
I think it's true.
It might be true.
Yeah. People rally around if you got an enemy, man.
Well, when you don't have an outside existential threat, for some reason the human organism looks within for problems that don't exist. When things get easy, we get uneasy. And we're starting to find where's the next threat coming from.
Yeah.
That understimulated amygdala, because there's no external threat, starts trying to find it.
Yeah.
And I feel like neoconservatism tried to weaponize that for profit.
Tried to weaponize
That human instinct to need a existential threat from the outside.
So what was the threat that neoconservatism weaponized us against?
Terrorism.
Terrorism, okay, yeah. I mean, to be fair though, it's a real threat. It is definitely still a real threat. It was certainly a threat in 2001.
Do you remember the end of that Rocky movie? Or not Rocky, excuse me. Rambo, I mean. When the Russian helicopter is coming bearing down
Yep.
on him in the Afghanistan desert. And he's got the machine guns, right? This is the 1980s.
Yeah.
The way you understand that scene is when you look at the end of that movie. Did you know that the movie was dedicated to the Mujahideen?
Yeah. I did, because you told me. That's the only reason. We've had this conversation before, but I didn't realize that until you told it to me.
Because, and people back in the early internet, early 2000s, under the George Bush era.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Mujahideen just is Arabic for freedom fighter, right?
I guess so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
No, yeah.
Sure. I'm not certain on that.
Yeah,
for
or
100%.
jihadist.
Jihad. Jihad is a religious term.
Yeah, but I think it translates similar.
Does it? Okay. Please look it up for us and let us know.
We're not sure.
But back at, again, in the early 2000s, mid-2000s, people were talking about how Bush was involved in 9/11 because the Bin Laden families and was close with the Bush family. Well, that goes back to that moment in that movie I'm talking about, because when the Russians did go into Afghanistan in the 80s, just prior to them collapsing, we funded the Mujahideen freedom fighters. As a nation, we funded them. And we gave them weapons and artillery, and we got ourselves involved in fighting the Russians out because we
No
were still
common friends, just common interests.
right,
That's all,
common
yeah.
interests,
Yep.
right? So one of the wealthiest families in Afghanistan were the Bin Ladens.
Mm-hmm.
And Osama bin Laden was a freedom fighter with this wealthy family close to the Bushes. And essentially, when they didn't need him anymore, they dropped him like a hot potato. And then you start seeing...
And then he got pissed off.
He got pissed off, and the rest is history, right?
Yeah.
You know, wasn't there a 1994 World Trade Center bombing as well?
Yep.
Who was that?
90.
Who caused that? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
You don't
the
remember either?
specifics, No.
I think that had something to do with that. I think they were targeting the World Trade Center on purpose. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, you can correct us. Please let us know. But we got all this conservative interventionism, right? That creates the blowback of our once allies, blowback on us, and we get things like 9/11.
Yeah.
And then we go back into Iraq, just absolutely bankrupt ourselves. And it's just a terrible cycle. And I feel like
So you feel that terrorism is
we created it.
either that's my question. You think it's I guess you just answered it.
Wolverines. You know what I'm talking about?
So it's not a purely religious issue then.
Not a pure, no.
Yeah.
I think,
I agree with you. I just
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't think it's a purely religious issue at all.
No, but-
I think it's international politics.
Yeah, but I mean, religion plays a huge role in finding soldiers, of course.
Right, exactly.
And
you
this
can
is the
make
same-
people
this-
do
this-
irrational things if you make them believe irrational things.
This goes back to the things we were just talking about a few minutes ago and the things we were talking about in the last episode.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what the philosophy is. You recruit the masses by feeding them bullshit.
Well, Goebbels said
Yeah.
the bigger the lie, the more they believe it. And,
Yeah.
and you know, Goebbels being the propaganda minister for all of Nazi Germany, said the bigger the lie and the more you tell it, the more people want to believe it.
Yeah.
Right? So if you can, like we said about the other side, if you can make them believe absurdities, they will commit atrocities.
Yeah.
And a really easy way to do that is through religious programming. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's really true.
Oh, it's-
You can make people believe whatever if they're going to heaven at the end. You know, the 72 virgins or whatever
You
it
can
is.
scare the hell out of them if
You
they're
can
going to
scare
hell.
the hell out of them. Absolutely. If they believe that this isn't what this life isn't the real thing. If you can make them detach themselves from this moment, take them out of it and say, hey, this moment, this life is just the temporary one. It's going to determine how I live forever.
Yeah.
And if I do this and this and this from someone they trust, someone tells them you do this, this, and this, and you blow up this village with your car bomb or this building with your car bomb, you'll have an eternity of bliss.
Yeah.
I guess. All right, I'll do it. I'm in. If you can convince someone of that, why wouldn't they do it?
And the same concept applies on a much less serious scale to convince people to vote a certain way.
Sure.
You know, in an election, the problem is the thought process, and this is not an anti-religion episode. This is an anti-Republican episode. But
Yeah.
Republicans use and have been for a long time use this exact not philosophy, but this exact method to recruit voters, scare them into thinking that their way of life is under attack, which, I mean, there might be a lot of truth to the fact
There
that
might
it
be
is.
some. But, you know, both sides are able to get away with things because there's actually the best lies have a little bit of truth in them.
Yeah, sure.
You know, they're much easier to digest if
Yeah.
you know that part of it really is true.
Yeah.
And then you can like, okay, maybe the rest is too. You know, if you're not certain as an individual, yeah, why not?
So I think that the kind of the big difference between the Republican electorate and the Democrat electorate is, I think that the Republican electorate is starting to see through a lot of this bullshit, which is why the Republican nominee for the last three election
Has
cycles
been Trump.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, I mean,
And even the evangelicals have gotten behind him, even though Trump is far from an evangelical.
well, think about the Republican Party and the way they've related to Trump. Tell me what you think on that. Because they haven't been, they would absolutely throw that man under the bus if they didn't think he was their only chance.
Oh, the Republican establishment hates Donald Trump.
Donald Trump hates him. Let's talk about that for a minute. We're talking about the Republicans here.
Yeah, Donald Trump's the worst thing that ever happened to the Republican establishment. Donald Trump destroyed the Bush family.
The neoconservatives.
Yeah, the old guard out Donald Trump in. He's the ultimate leader of the Republican Party. If they convict him and send him to prison, he will still be the leader of the Republican Party. Nothing anybody can do about it.
He's the ideological leader of the people they want to covet. Of the people they covet, he's their ideological leader right now.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason that the Republican establishment isn't going just as hard after him as the Democrat.
And ironically, I think the Republican establishment would be dead without him, because the Republican establishment and the Democrat establishment is all part of the same machine. I don't include Donald Trump in my scathing of the Republican Party. I could criticize Donald Trump too. I don't agree with Donald Trump on everything, and
No, of course.
I'd be happy to criticize him, but
I agree with you.
But I don't consider him to be part of the party at all, even though he's the party leader. When I'm talking about the Republican Party, I'm talking about the party that has been since, the party of Nixon and Reagan,
right?
And,
yeah,
and the Bushes, and not that I'm a big Reagan fan.
Me too. Absolutely.
Yeah, the party that evolved from that, and then
we're not talking about ideological conservatism. What we're talking about is the establishment Republican Party.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
Yeah, but I think we're talking a little bit about ideological conservatism too, which I'm also against. But I'm not totally against it. There's a lot of things about ideological conservatism.
We want conservative government part.
We do.
We don't want conservative social part.
You're right. I do. But I do think that it's good to. I think that the social structure of the country, the conservative social structure of the country, is not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
Conservatives have family values. I don't think that's bad. I don't want them imposed on other people. I don't think these are bad ideas. I think they're bad policy, if that makes sense.
The only things I want conserved are the Constitution, the value of our money system.
That's a big one.
They're not helping on that.
No, they're not.
They're not. It's literally a game of pretend when it comes to the money system.
Yeah.
Lower taxes. Well, they just raise them less.
Yeah.
All right.
Lower inflation. It just goes up by a...
Yeah. It's still... There is no true conserving of the original value of money.
Yeah.
There is no conserving of people's liberties, because they want to create conservative values that usurp your liberties.
Yeah.
Okay? So we're taking the social aspect, and it's just destroyed. The economic aspect is destroyed. The conservative international relations is maybe a little better than the Democrats, but we also create the blowback.
Maybe a little bit better, maybe not.
Well, it's better to carry a big stick.
Yeah, but I don't know if the Republicans want to do that.
They'll spend money on military, and there's nothing. Hey, listen, if there's a place to spend some money federally, I think military is a good place to do.
Yeah, right now the Democrats are the ones throwing all the money. Well, on the Republicans.
Not our military. We're throwing it at the Ukrainian military.
Sure, but it's all. Yeah, you're right. It's not bad. It's a good thing to have a strong military and then not have to use it because it's strong.
And then the conservative view about the police, which I support the police too, but I don't support them unconditionally.
Certainly not unconditionally.
I support having a police system.
Yeah,
I support the fact that police officers have a hard job.
Yeah.
But I don't support them unconditionally.
No, definitely not. My number one rule about the police is you don't fucking talk to them.
Right. They're only there for one reason.
Yeah, to find a reason to arrest you.
Right.
If you have to call them, you're not prepared in an emergency situation. That's why I carry a gun, because I'm taking responsibility for the safety of myself and the people that I love.
Sure.
but the police are necessary.
Absolutely. They're
100%, like-
they're a good, healthy part of our system.
Yeah, they just need to be. But they can't go around doing whatever the hell they want either, and
Exactly.
that's another kind of fine line that I walk between the left and the right, and I watch these two sides, and you got one side that wants to defund the police, which is one of the stupidest fucking buzz lines I've ever heard in my entire life.
You know, they tried to put that in practice, didn't they?
Libertarian Country, by the way, has a T-shirt that says "Defund the IRS."
Defund the IRS.
I fucking love it. But
That's a good idea.
yeah. So defund the police is stupid. At the same time, these conservatives that just support the police no matter what the hell they do is also stupid, because the cops are out there violating people's rights every single day. Every single day. They're violating people's rights. They lie to people. They search people. You know, they convince people to give them permission for what would generally be
searches and seizures, and sure, of course,
they manipulate people. They get false confessions. These things all happen, and they happen on a regular basis, and they should be stopped. So I guess my position on the police is just common sense. Obviously, you need a force to police things, to enforce the laws, and at the same time, obviously, they shouldn't be allowed to violate people's rights.
Absolutely.
Based on anything.
It's just it's a blind submission that's a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge problem. So, just another example of don't feed the animals, the donkeys and the Republican.
Yeah.
The donkeys and the elephants, I mean, like why don't more people see it like that? Why can't
in
more
my
people
lifetime,
look at,
I've only ever seen one truly successful conservative Republican, or I shouldn't say conservative, I should say Republican politician that was semi-successful in getting the philosophy out of liberty.
Who was that?
Ron Paul.
I thought you might say Ron Paul.
He was a 20-plus year Republican in name only.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when they say Republican in name only, that's not generally what they're talking about. However, it fits the bill in this part.
He was the Republican.
Yeah.
And what they did to that man was
paint him as a lunatic.
Meanwhile, he's standing up in front of everybody giving his famous "what if" speech. I don't know if you've ever heard this before or not. Yeah. Where he literally predicted the next 20 years. And now that we're 20 years later, you can watch that speech and realize that he was 100% right the whole time, and all they did was paint him as a lunatic. And that's what the Republican establishment truly is.
Yeah.
You take a reasonable man who understands things so well that he can predict your future, and you can only appreciate him in hindsight. That's what the Republican establishment really is at its roots.
And why are they doing that? Once again, it's the same reason the Democrats do what they do. It's a power grab. It's all about power. It's all about votes. It's all about staying in office.
You have to take the sage and turn him into the lunatic.
Enriching yourself, and
you can't do that if the sage is in power.
Yeah, you can't have somebody like breaking off part of your electorate and forming a
Absolutely, which they did. The Tea Party.
Yeah.
Remember? The Tea Party, the literal Tea Party movement, which every mainstream conservative from Sarah Palin and all of them got in on the Tea Party movement. If you look it up in your history, the Tea Party movement got its name from a Ron Paul speech.
Yeah.
A Ron Paul speech. That man came in second place for the Republican nomination and nobody remembers. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Fucking Ron Paul.
Crazy, man.
Got second place for the Republican nomination. Meanwhile, the Republicans are putting up Mitt Romney, who's a liberal.
One of the worst.
One of the worst.
One of the worst.
John McCain. Fuck that brain tumor fuck. All right?
A little harsh, but okay.
Fuck him. Fuck him. He's a lying he was a lying piece of shit. Lying pieces of shit are the same after they're dead as they were when they were alive.
Say it the way you feel it. I just to counter Ben, and he's got the right to his opinion. I personally, on a personal level, had respect for John McCain, but believed that he was a terrible centrist.
Even when they crashed those friggin' planes, he lied about all of it.
Yeah.
He was a piece of shit.
Okay.
He lied about it. Oh, I got captured. Yeah, well, it's because you couldn't fly a plane, you asshole.
But he did spend how many years in a Vietnamese prison camp?
Well, he did learn his lesson, and I hope...
More so. More or less. More or less.
I've had this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my ass for 4 years.
Ben's quoting
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. For anybody that doesn't know.
And this is your birthright, all right?
We feel the same way about John McCain politically. You obviously have a much worse opinion of him personally. That's okay.
He was just another piece of shit they rolled up to lose to Obama.
And that's true. That's true. And he lost in typical Republican fashion. But,
Yep. They'd rather lose playing by the rules
well, at that
than
point,
win, which is the opposite of the left.
You got the Tea Party, and I believe that Donald Trump is the successor to the Tea Party, even though it's not the same. It's not the same thing philosophically, but it's part of the same movement. It's the same rebellion against the Republican establishment. The Republican establishment is the John McCain,
Absolutely,
Mitt Romney, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell types.
Oh God,
and
my stomach is burning just saying their names.
We're just sitting here waiting for them all to.
Mitch McConnell, that turtle-looking motherfucker.
Yeah.
I have just as much vitriol for those guys as I do the other side.
Yeah, I can't stand them.
Yeah,
I can't. They're almost worse because
that's exactly what it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I got you off.
No,
but I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you for putting it in those words because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Is they pretend to be your friend.
You know what Chuck Schumer's thinking. You know.
Yeah.
You don't have to guess.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have no idea what Mitch McConnell believes.
And you know what? You know what I liked about Chuck? I'll talk about what I liked about Chuck Schumer. You know what I like about him?
What's that?
That motherfucker wanted alien disclosure.
Did he?
He truly did.
Did he really?
Chuck Schumer from Nevada, right?
No. You're thinking of.
He just died, right?
No.
I'm thinking of somebody else. I'm an asshole.
Nevada. I can picture the guy you're thinking.
Okay.
Somebody tell us in the comments.
Someone tell us in the comments. We're way off tonight. You're gonna have to tell us all kinds of shit on this one. All right.
No, Chuck Schumer is the current Senate Democrat leader.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Boy, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, he's a fucking piece too.
Glasses down to here.
Oh yeah.
Tip of his nose. Yeah.
Oof.
They're all the same fucking.
Oof.
But.
Well, you got a very difficult situation for a nation when we're trying to choose between a shit sandwich and a douche, and a giant douche, right?
Yeah.
I guess you do have to choose the lesser of two evils, but man, I just wish there was an alternative. But there just isn't. There's an illusion of choice when you only have two candidates.
I don't think that our current choice is between a giant douche and a shit sandwich this time.
Right. Well, that's why Trump's going to get murdered.
We alluded to that possibility before, but
yeah, he's done. He's cooked. He knows it too. He knows his life's in danger.
Listen, Donald Trump never has been the guy that if I were to pick the perfect president, but I'm not even going to say it's a lesser of two evils this time. I'm going to say that it's a senile old fucking man.
Yeah.
Versus
a business person.
A business person who's not a politician. Yeah, he's not a fundamentalist, and he's not an ideologue. He's just a guy that's going to get shit done. That's going to do it with a right-leaning philosophy. He's going to give more freedom back to people. You know what? We already saw him do it one time.
And that's what they hold it. One of the many things that they hold against Donald Trump too, is that he's not a polished politician. They hate the way he talks.
But it's normal now. That's the beautiful thing about it.
Yeah, I know. He's normalized not being a politician.
Now nobody gives a shit. They can hold that against him.
They still try. They still hate him for it.
Yeah, I know, but nobody cares anymore.
Nobody fucking cares.
We already had that.
Beautiful.
They're done that. That's why he's surging in the polls.
And it's because he's not a politician, and he never was.
Yep.
He was a business person. He was someone who built things his whole life. He was creative.
Yep.
He built the New York City skyline, right, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And
the only reason he's running as a Republican is because when he decided to do so, that was his best chance to win.
He was a Democrat.
Yeah, he's not a
he was a registered Democrat not that long ago.
That's why I keep saying he's not part of the Republican Party that we're scathing tonight, because he chose the R because at that time it was like, okay, like this is my ticket in. Like he would have ran under any. It didn't matter what he
Right.
ran under. The man is not a Republican in the sense that we're talking about.
You know what
And
I
that's
hated?
what's beautiful about
You know
it.
when I hated Donald Trump? Was when they were doing the Republican debates and he was debating Ron Paul back in 2012.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
people
but-
forget that Donald Trump was in the Republican debates in 2012.
Yeah, against like 10 other dudes.
Yeah. And the way he talked to Ron Paul, I was so angry.
Yeah, he
I was
talked
so
to him all that way. We talked to them. That's when they all got their nicknames.
That's
what
what
was it? What was Jeb's? It was low energy Jeb
low energy Jeb.
and little Marco and
I think Trump hates the Republicans as much as I do.
absolutely, dude. And they hate him
And
back.
They hate
They
him back.
hate him back.
Absolutely. Yep.
They hate him back. And the left despises him the most because they've gotten the Republicans to collude with him. They've spent years getting the Republican Party to collude with them for their
Yep.
takeover.
Yep.
And along comes this guy that says, fuck you both, I'm not colluding with you.
Yeah.
And that's why the liberals are freaking out the most.
That's the deep state.
Yeah.
That is the draining of the swamp.
Yep.
That is the swamp he promised to drain.
Yep.
And then
Can you
there's
imagine?
as many
Can you
there's as many
imagine
Republicans in that swamp as there are Democrats?
There's probably more. Can you imagine in his second term the havoc he will wreak, not having to run for re-election a second time?
Well, hold on a second. Let's see.
Like, think about the buttons
So
that man
usually-
could push without any.
So usually, if you do 2 consecutive terms, the second one's called the retirement term because you're literally
Yeah.
not worried about campaigning ever again, and you can do what you really
that would
wanted
be
to
this
do again.
term for Trump if he wins it.
Wait, because you're telling me that this would be his second one, and that'd be the last one he'd
Yeah,
be
it
eligible
could not be.
for?
Yeah,
Okay,
he
I
could
didn't
be
know
able
that.
to
I
get
didn't know that. I didn't know. I thought it was 2 consecutive terms
Two
you weren't
total.
allowed to do.
Two total. You can't
okay.
pull a Vladimir Putin where you run for one, where you're
okay.
the president for 4 years, and then you're the prime minister for 4 years, and then you're the
You
president.
can't do that.
No.
Okay.
And then
Okay.
you
Good to
change
know.
the rules and decide you
Good
can.
to know.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
can't pull a Putin.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, darn.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah.
No, but that's
Actually,
a good thing, though.
That is
because
a good thing.
It's a good thing because I don't want Donald Trump to be dictator for life. I want Donald Trump to come back, vindicate himself,
Inspire the next guy.
yeah, destroy the Republican Party and the Democrat Party
Yep.
as much as possible.
Yep.
Literally blow shit up, destroy it as much as possible, and then get the next guy ready. And I don't know. I'm a big Vivek Ramaswamy fan.
Oh, absolutely. You don't think that Vivek Ramaswamy has been inspired by Trump? Of course he
dude,
has.
absolutely.
There is a new generation of non-neoconservatives.
Do you know what day Vivek Ramaswamy was born? August 9th, 1985. You know
Okay.
what day I was born? August 9th, 1985.
Oh, that's awesome.
Fun fact.
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
Just a little sidebar there, but anyway.
Yeah. Awesome. I like that. That's
Yeah.
very cool. He's a
It makes me
great...
feel old as fuck that like somebody who ran for president is actually the exact same age as me to the day. But
That is interesting.
yeah,
That's cool. I'm actually afraid to tell you who I know was born on the same day as me. A dead porn star.
oh dude,
I looked up my birthday one time
sad,
trying to
dude.
find celebrities. There was a dead porn star.
that's sad.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Yeah. Yeah, she was hot too.
Anyway,
And I'm no conservative.
it's a libertarian.
Yeah, libertarian. I'm the guy with the boot on his head who talks about how the rent's too damn high.
That guy was great. I forgot about that guy.
Actually, I think that was 2 different people. You have on the libertarian side, you have the guy with the boot on his head. I can't remember what his name was. Vermin Supreme.
That's right, Vermin Supreme.
Vermin Supreme. And then you also had the
rent is too damn high.
black dude with the big white mutton chops.
Wait, I thought that was Vermin Supreme.
No, I think it wasn't there a guy who was like, the rent's too damn high?
That was Vermin Supreme.
That was Vermin Supreme.
I think, but like I
Okay.
might be
See, we don't even
misremembering
know.
my 2012 memes. So I don't know.
Well, 2016, there's a forgotten candidate from the Libertarian side, and his name was Gary Johnson. And Gary Johnson was the governor of New Mexico.
Yep.
And at the end of his 2 terms, he was the most popular governor in the history of that state, and they had the largest budget surplus in the
Surprise,
history of that
surprise.
state. You put a libertarian in charge. And when it really came down to it, in 2016, he was probably the most qualified candidate based
Yeah.
on his resume, on what he had done in New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we're treated like the libertarians don't even exist.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody
There's
realized...
no money. There's no.
Which goes to show you that people only vote based on what they've been told is valuable and what isn't.
Which is the problem with democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, the propaganda.
It's not a competition of ideas.
The machine tells you that only the Democrat and only the Republican are viable candidates. Ignore everything else, and that's exactly what everybody does. They just fall into line.
But then a guy like Ross Perot comes along and gets like 20% of the vote.
Well,
like
that's a good point.
You know, that does happen sometimes.
Yep.
And if you can get 20% of the vote, you can get 40% of the
Sure.
vote. You know, so not that I see any third-party candidate getting...
No.
You know, but RFK is going to make a splash in this election.
RFK just turned down the Libertarian nomination.
Yeah.
Because of that, the Libertarians still don't even have a nomination for president right now.
Not terribly surprising.
It's a party in shambles.
Yeah.
And I guess
that's why to me it's more that's why I say I've never been associated with the Libertarian Party. It's
right.
As a party, it's
idealistically it's supposed to be nice.
As a philosophy, it's a great thing.
Yep.
It would be really cool if there was a viable party, a viable Libertarian Party, and if there was, I'd back it.
Well, without the backing of the establishment, it'll never happen because people will never accept it without the backing of the establishment.
Libertarianism, by its own definition, will never have the backing of the establishment.
No, because it's anti-establishment in its nature.
Yep.
The people who would run as true libertarians would never subscribe to the way that power works, and power would always fight against it.
Yep.
Even from the World Economic Forum, and we've talked about this guy before, the guy that came out looking like Darth Vader, that you have no idea who I'm talking about, who told you you eat the crickets, right?
Yeah.
He had a statement recently about the rise of libertarianism across Europe and how it's such a danger to the establishment. And I wish I could remember this guy's name, and then as soon as I get off camera, I'll remember this guy's name again.
Put it in the comments if you remember.
Put it in the comments. This guy, he's a German billionaire who works with the World Economic Forum, and he's just, he's had a lot of memes made about him. A lot of people know who he is nowadays, but yeah, he made a comment about libertarianism as a threat to the establishment.
Yeah.
But that's how it will always be, because we're that one little tiny section of the population that we have the hemispheres of the brain properly synced in a way that we can both be socially liberal and concurrently at the same time also conservative on a different issue.
It's funny. It makes so much sense to me, though.
I know.
It makes so much sense because in being socially liberal and economically conservative, to me just means like I don't want anybody telling me what to do.
Right.
Period. Like with my personal life or with my money, and I don't understand why it's not more embraced.
Maybe you and I want to self-determine, but I don't think most people do.
No.
I think most people want a daddy.
Yeah, but they want the idea of self-determination.
They don't want the guilt of being a schlub that wants a daddy.
Yeah.
They want to be able to believe that they want self-determination while also having a daddy.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's the case, or maybe am I wrong?
No, I think in a lot of ways you're right.
Whether their daddy's God or government.
Yeah.
It's still their daddy.
I think a lot of...
I'm sorry to say that. I know it's probably an uncomfortable thing to say.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I do. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
It makes sense, but I don't think most of those people would admit.
No.
That.
Nobody would. Who would want to admit to that?
Yeah.
It doesn't make it less true. But it also doesn't mean people don't want to say that out loud about themselves.
Yeah.
They want someone. It's got to feel good to just be able to let go and say, "Oh, I submit. Do as you please. I don't have to worry anymore."
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it feels good for those people. Fuck that for me.
It would never feel good for me.
It would never feel good for any libertarian. That's the whole thing. Is like. There's 2% of us out there that don't want a daddy at all. We literally want to own ourselves and self-determine and be completely voluntary in all our actions. And the other 98% will always rule over us.
Yeah. But 98% of them don't rule. 2% of them rule. And those are the...
Well, that's true.
And those are the ones that control the other 96%.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Get them to vote their way. And whether those people have an R or a D next to their name, it's... they all kind of end up
It's all the same either way. Yep. Well, I think our aim tonight in this podcast was to try to trash the conservatives, or not the conservatives, the Republicans.
And the conservatives.
And trash them in a fair way in comparison to the way we also did it from the left-hand side in the prior episode.
Yeah.
Do you think we achieved that, honestly?
Probably not quite as bad.
I don't think so either.
But let's be honest, they're not as bad.
They're not as bad. I think
not to me. I would much rather live under. If I've got to choose a totalitarian government, I'll take the conservative one over the liberal one. I think the liberal one would be absolute fucking insanity. Mm-hmm. I think the conservative one would be fairly livable, but far from ideal. I don't want any totalitarian government. I want
no government.
I want freedom.
I want liberty.
Yeah, what I really want is a cabin in the woods where nobody tells me what to do. But
yeah,
as long as I've got to have a government, it's going to have to be, you got to submit to something. So, but no, I don't think we trashed conservatives quite as bad as we did liberals. But they don't deserve it quite as much, in our opinion. And our opinion is the one that matters because we're the ones making the fucking podcast. So
that's right. Well, we try, we do our best, and I think we're doing a pretty good job. But all right, my man. I think we gave it our best shot. We tried to be equal. I tried to give you some zeal behind it.
I don't think
I really tried to give you some zeal behind it. It's just not. It's almost like an oral bowel movement.
Anybody that watches both episodes, especially this one, will understand that we are not Republicans and we're not blindly. I am not walking into that ballot box and just going straight Republican. I mean, I'm voting for him. Ben's writing in whoever the hell he wants to.
I'm not voting.
Ben's not voting.
You give me a good libertarian candidate, I'll go and vote for him. How about that? Yeah, Gary.
Maybe someday.
Maybe you give me another Ron Paul, and I'll be his campaign manager. All right. But anyways, all I can say is, brother, thank you for your time.
Amen.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, my man. We gave it our best shot.
Next time. Is that a full episode?